Jim Blair. So you and I have been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
You are a DVC alumni. When did you go here at DVC?
I came here fresh out of the Army in 1988.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, 89, somewhere in there.
And you met your lovely wife here too.
I did. My last semester at Diablo Valley College, I met my wife in a math class, of all things.
Okay.
Yeah, she makes me contractually say that anytime I mention that I went to DVC.
Okay. So you went on, you had an illustrious career, you did lots of things, which at some point we'll get that as a clip. But the main thing I wanted to talk to you about today was that you actually came back to DVC. You taught for about 5 years, and you've now been running the foundation here for about 5 years. So talk a little bit about kind of the mission of the foundation and what is the DVC Foundation?
Well, the DVC Foundation is actually a separate organization. It's not part of the college. It's a separate 501c3. So it's a nonprofit corporation that stands on its own, but it only has one mission, and that's to raise money and resources for DVC. So its sole mission is to raise resources that can be used to support the programs, the faculty, and the students of Diablo Valley College.
Great. And what are some of the examples of how the foundation does support those things?
So traditionally, scholarships was the main focus, but we're actually trying to modernize the foundation because the reality is that it takes a lot to support a college and all of the different entities, people, programs that are involved in the college system. And so what we're trying to do is really follow the lead of those private foundations, the public foyers, and bring what they've been doing already down to the community college level. Future. Where I see the Diablo Valley College Foundation having a greater impact, though, is the ability to do things that traditionally weren't done at community colleges, such as building buildings or establishing entirely new programs. One of the things that we've been looking to do at our San Ramon campus is to build a biotech program.
Important. So let's go to talk about the scholarships for a moment, because that is what everybody thinks about. How important are the scholarships to students here at DVC?
Well, they absolutely have an impact. There are certainly a number of people, I'd say more in the community college system, that need that financial support, or even just need support in general to believe that they belong here. The number one thing that we see is the sense of imposter syndrome that many of our students have because they don't feel like they're college material or things like that. And sometimes the first validation that they've ever received in their life is when we give them a scholarship and say, we believe in you and we want you to continue to do what you're doing. Most of our scholarships are small, $500 to $1,000. But that, even though that doesn't seem like a lot, especially later in life when you've established yourself in a career, but that is life-changing. We say around here that there are students that go to Diablo Valley College who are one flat tire away from dropping out of college because just that setback would cause them to have to rearrange their life in such a way that they couldn't make it here anymore. And so even our emergency scholarships, where we help people with that flat tire, have a great impact. So scholarships do matter. We have big ones that help pay for, the transfer school that they go to. We have very few of those. Most of ours, again, are in the $500 to $1,000 range, but that really can change someone's life. But I think there are ways to do more so that we can take that $1,000 scholarship and put it into a program that benefits not just one student, but benefits many students. And I think that's the thinking that I'd like to get into is not only do we do scholarships, but are there ways to create programs? One of the things that our development officer, Tom Martin, is trying to do is to raise funds for experiential learning. Because what we're seeing is students get out of college, but they don't have the skills needed to do the job or to succeed in the workplace. Soft skills that they could have developed if they had jobs here, but they're not doing that as much as when, say, I was a student here. When I was a student here, it was very common to have, jobs. I had 3 at one point, I think, as a student. But we have a different world where in high school and in college, there's not as much opportunity for students to work, to experience that interaction that we really need to develop the whole person that then becomes the worker that is sought after. And so experiential learning is our path to recreate that. The stuff that you and I got, when we started working, whatever odd jobs we had when we were 15, 16 years old, we're starting to develop those opportunities. But what's different is we're actually developing with local businesses, members of the chambers of commerce, and also with high-tech companies that we have relationships with. And, that's one of our jobs, is to develop those relationships. So there's opportunity for us to do things like we've never done before. And I've talked about that with experiential learning. I see opportunity for other things like building buildings on the campus. And here's the interesting thing about that is we don't see necessarily the ability to build a lot of buildings. But I don't think we need a lot of buildings, because education is changing so much. After the pandemic, we saw that people did return to the classroom, but we also maintained a lot of online classes. Well, to do those correctly, what we see is a need for technology. So, hey, the foundation should be there helping to expand the resources that could be used to direct, new technology. And there are, unfortunately, a lot of what we say economically challenged, but also, there are times people go hungry on our campus. We have a food pantry. We have, food distribution hubs where they can get hot meals and things like that. So the foundation could play a role in expanding those services on campus. One of the areas we haven't talked about is the need for emergency funding. We did mention it with regard to the, one flat tire away, but we've had cases where students, where their living or their apartments were burned down, and they needed emergency funding in the form of deposits to get into new. We have a number of students that are homeless, and we'd like to be able to help them get into housing. And some would say that's not really the role of education. But we live in a different world now. And so what we're seeing is overlap of the need to provide services everywhere you go. It wasn't in the past common to provide mental health counseling on community college campuses. But we do that now. And we see a need for that as we see the rising depression and anxiety and the other challenges that our students face. So we have to be flexible to meet the students where they are, to provide the services they need. And the best way to do that is to provide them on campus where they're at and not send them somewhere else to some other agency to do that. I think the foundation can play a role in all of that.